Hello friends, hope you're all fine and doing very well. And today we are gonna cover how we can change our image properties using CSS. So today we are gonna cover CSS3 property, that is filter, and it's very simple and easy to use. You can make many more things with it. But for now, let's jump into coding section. So as you can see, here is my desktop. I'm on my desktop, and I'm gonna create a folder here. So I can name it as whatever I want. So I'm naming it as CSS images. Okay, and just press enter to make a folder. And I have this simple image that I just recently downloaded from internet, and I'm going to just move this image inside this folder. Now as you can see, this is my folder. So first of all, I'm gonna open this folder in VS Code editor. It's a good editor for writing code, and it have a lot of flexibility to debug your code. So that's why we should use this code editor, but it's totally up to you. You can use whatever you are using, like Sublime or Atom or Notepad. It's totally up to you. But for professionals and for beginners also, I recommend to use VS Code editor because it's provide too much ease to make and generate lengthy code in just seconds. So here my code editor is opened with the simple image, and that image name it as paris.jpg, and I'm gonna create a file here named as index.html. It's totally up to you what naming convention are you using here, but I'm prefer to use meaningful names like index.html and style.css. That's it. Now I am going in my index.html file, and I'm going to create a boilerplate. As you can see, this is my boilerplate that I just created in seconds with VS Code editor using Ahmad extension. Now here I'm gonna link my CSS file. So that's all for now. Now one more thing that I can do, I can change the title here so it's look good. So I am going to change the title here with, like, let's suppose image filter. Yeah, that's great. Now I am going to open this file inside my browser. So how can I do this? It's very simple. You can copy path from here, and I'm going to open a Google Chrome. So this is my Google Chrome, and I'm going to paste this link here and press enter. Now this is the way you can also do this. This way you can open your files, and there are a lot of other ways that you can do, but it's totally up to you. Now the next thing is I am going to import an image file here. So I'm going to give us a source here. So now you can see this is my image file. Now I'm jumping into my CSS file and use some resets that we use in all of our videos, like setting margin to 0 and padding also to 0 and box sizing to border box. And one more thing, that here we use the asterisk symbol, and that means that it will select each and every element of your web page and applies those properties that we just put inside this block of curly braces. So that's why we are using it here, and we are putting the margin and padding 0 on each and every element. So this will reset our browser settings, because some browsers have different margin and paddings, so it will maybe affect your web page. So that's why very professional and beginner developers should use this feature of VS Code, or you can say of CSS. Yeah. Now the next thing that you can do, now if I show you what will happen, you can see the margin will go on from here. If I just press F5, so it will refresh the page and the settings applied on my HTML page, because we link the CSS file here. Now I am going to style something like, you can say I'm going to style my body. Okay, so just copy the body, not this, yeah, just copying the body tag here and just paste it here. You can write it by yourself also, but I'm writing it and I'm showing you the quickest way. Now I'm just put a display flex here, and if I show you, nothing will change. But if I put the justify content to center, so it will center the items that are coming inside a body horizontally. Now if I refresh, you can see it is centered horizontally. Now if you want to center it vertically also, so we can also do with align item center, and with a specified height, like I'm going to put 100 VH, that means viewport height, 100% of viewport height. And if you don't know about VH, VW and percentage units, you can watch my video that I covered each and every unit there, relative and absolute units there, and where should we use relative units, where should we use absolute units. I covered each and everything about units or CSS units in that particular video. And if you're not familiar with Flexbox, you can also watch a video. I gave the complete guide of Flexbox, so you can watch there also. Now here you can see, if I refresh, the image is in center. Now that way I am going to show you each and every filter property that you can apply on your image. One more thing is, I'm going to style my image here and put the width here to 50%. So it will take the 50% of the whole web page, because body is the parent of the image container. And that's it for now. Now one more thing, that if you want to give a heading here, let's suppose a heading of image styling, and that's it. So how can you do this? It's very simple. I'm going to put a heading here, h1, and image styling. That's it. If I refresh, but it's a mistake here, you can see it is coming in one line. I do not want this, I want the image styling here. This is why this is coming in one line, because we use the flex box on the body. So how can we deal with it? It's very simple, you can do it. But one more thing that I want to do is putting a span here, span tag here, and write like the quick code. This is my channel name. If I refresh, it's something looks like this, and now it's not looking good. So I just wrap it in one div, and that way it will looks good. Okay, now one more thing, I want to put this whole div here. So how can I do this? Let's jump into the styling section and use the property flex direction to column, and if I refresh, you can see it's very simple, quick solution. Now I'm setting the aligner as text line to center, so it will center itself, the text centering itself. Okay, now how can I do one more thing? Yeah, I'm going to apply a font family here. So I'm just using a random font family. Let's suppose this is the font family. Yeah, it's looking good. And now it's looking like our standalone web page. Now actually I'm not feeling good here. I just want some more styling. So how can I do this? So it's very simple. Just put a background color here and put it to teal, because teal is my favorite color. And if I refresh, it's here, but I want to the width as the image have, so I can give a width here also. So I can give a width of 50%, and if I refresh, now it's looking good. I also want to change its color of the text, so I can change the color of the text, like let's suppose this, and if I refresh, now it's looking something really good. Now we are going to use the filter property on my image, and I can show you. So how can we do this? It's very simple. So the very first property that we can use, or we can use random properties here. So the syntax is something like this. It's my filter, sorry, it's my filter is the property, and the coming up values like blur, brightness, contrast, drop shadow, grayscale, hue-rotate, invert, none, these all the things are actually methods, or you can say it as values, but I preferably use the word methods here because you can see the parentheses coming after the contrast and brightness and blur and each and every value. So that's why I'm calling it a method. But if you are not familiar with programming like JavaScript or Python, you can call it as value of your property. So now first of all I'm going to take this first one property like blur, and if I put some random value here, let's suppose I'm going to put a 4 pixel, 4 pixel, and if I refresh, now you can see the image is blur and it has the blurry effect. Okay, now the next property I can use, I'm going to comment it out, or if I do not comment it out, what will happen? Let's see. If I use a filter here and use the brightness of let's suppose 50%, if I refresh, now you can see the brightness is low, so we can increase it like let's suppose 150%. If I refresh, now it is more bright. But one more thing that you can see, the blur property is no more here. So how can we fix this thing that if you want the blurriness and brightness at the same time? So we can also do this, but for now just learn other methods and we will do it in the last. Okay, now the next one is filter. I'm just taking the random methods from the suggestion, like contrast. You can actually create a contrast here. So let's suppose 1. If I refresh, it's looking like this. Okay, if I put 10%, if I refresh, now that you can see the contrast is 10% here and it's very low. And if I use is like 200, now it will the contrast is here is very high. Now another thing that you can do is you can use grayscale, and the grayscale is actually the scale of grayness in your image. So if I put 100% and if I refresh, now you can see it's making our image black and white, and it's actually increasing the image grayscaleness to 100%. So the value of grayscale is 100% here. So that's why it is just putting deleting all the colors, or just removing all the colors from here and just putting the gray effect on it. So this is the real power of, you can say, the CSS. And I really appreciate if you use this thing with JavaScript and with range selector, and you can actually think so creative. But for now we are not learning JavaScript, we're just learning CSS. And when we cover the JavaScript tutorials, when we start the JavaScript series, so we will also cover how we can actually target the CSS values dynamically using our JavaScript. So it will be very funny, not funny, it will be very fun for that time. But for now, just concentrate on today's topic. So here we covered blur, brightness, contrast, grayscale. So what should we cover next? Let's suppose hue, rotate, and if I refresh, it's back to its normal. Okay, now if I change my hue rotate to, actually as you can see, this is the word rotate here. That means here we should use a degree. So that's what I'm using, 180 degree. Now if I refresh, you can see the color effect is changed. But if I inspect it here, and this is my filter grayscale, not grayscale, why grayscale is applying. If I refresh it again, it's changed. Now the hue rotation is changed. And if I show you here, this is my hue rotate. If I just increase it for now and just show you something here. Now if I click on this icon, actually I just selected the just opened the using it inspect element. You can, if you are on Windows, you can just press F12 and it will open this section. On the style section you can open this and just select the image and you can see the styles of your image. Now if you select on this icon, so here you can adjust the rotation of your hue as whatever you want. Now you can also see the image lively what is changing, so you can make it something here. So it's actually the effect of teal color on the image. It's just looking like this. So actually you can do many more things with it. Okay, so this is our hue-rotate. Actually hue is the combination of colors and we are just changing the rotation of colors, so it is actually changing the color states. So we also covered the hue, rotate, and the next one maybe invert. Yeah, invert. So actually it is used to invert colors. Like if you show you, it's something looks like this. I know it's weird, it's looking like a negative photo that we use in our old cameras, the reel in the cameras, and when we develop the photos, the reel is actually the part of negative photos. So actually here we can create a negative impact or negative filter, apply the negative filter on our photos. So it's looking horror. Okay, so now the next one is opacity, and opacity is we maybe use in our previous videos, but for now the opacity property is used to change the opacity of our image or of our whatever we are applying on it. So let's suppose I'm using 50%, the opacity will remain 50%. So you can see the opacity is 50% and it's looking like white color because our background is white. Now if I change my body background color, if I set my background color to, let's suppose, red, and if I refresh, now you can see the image color is also changed because we changed the image opacity. So that's why image is becoming 50% transparent and 50% the image is showing itself. And I can show you, I can prove you by just clicking on inspect here, and this is my opacity, and if I increase it, the more I increase, the more it will become dense to you. But if I decrease it, now you can see and the image is becoming more transparent. Yeah, so here is the thing that you can do, and you can actually just put 0 opacity, so it will just remove the image. If I put 1, so it will be a little bit effect here, you cannot see, but I'm also not seeing it. If I put 2, 3, 4, now you can see the image, it's but it's very light and its transparency is very high, so you can actually use this thing. Okay, now if I refresh, everything is fine. So we covered the opacity also in here. Now the next thing is what should we learn next? Okay, there may be saturate also. So saturate is actually the colors saturation, that how much the colors should saturate. So we can specify here. If I put 2 here and if I refresh, now you can see the colors is more saturated. If I just put nothing here, if I refresh, now you can see it's the original image. If I put 0 here, maybe it will become black and white or grayscale effect. Yeah, and if I put 9 here, you can see the image colors are very dense and saturated. So this is totally up to you how you're using your saturate. Now the next one is sepia, and actually sepia is reddish brown color maybe. Yeah, it's actually reddish brown color. If I put 100% of sepia and if I refresh, now you can see the reddish brown color here. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let me remove this annoying red background color. So you cannot affect your eyes. So now the next one is the filter, and I think so this is the last property that we are gonna cover, that is drop shadow. And drop shadow is actually like box shadow and text shadow. We are going to put the x-axis value, then y-axis value, then we are going to put how much the shadow should be, okay, and then we are just putting the color of the shadow. Let's suppose we are putting black color here, okay. Now if I refresh, you can see the color of the shadow. You can see the image shadow is something like this, and you can also see it's looking like the image is popping up. And maybe you can do it with let's suppose on image hover like so. And if I increase it to 30, if I refresh it, yeah, it is something good. Now if I just put it here and put a transition property here to, let's suppose, 2 seconds, and if I refresh, now if I hover on it, actually it's not working. Okay, so it will not work. Transition 2 seconds, I think so, because transition property is not work. Okay, it will not work on filter drop shadow. So okay, let's just okay, you can also just do this, but I do not use this thing. I use the box shadow on these kind of places, but it's totally up to you how you're using the filter property. That's it. And the last question that you wanna cover is how you can actually put all these values in a one line and want to apply these all values on. Now if I refresh, you can see this is only applying the drop shadow, and drop shadow is in last, so that's why it's using drop shadow. If I just put the sepia in last, and if I refresh, so the last value is applying on it, you can see the drop shadow is gone. So how can I fix this? It's very simple. It's really very simple. If I just put a filter here, and here I'm just putting the first one, let's suppose I'm just taking at the very first one, brightness. If I paste it here and if I refresh, the brightness is applied. Now to enter the next one, I'm just putting a space here. One important thing that you can note here is that I'm not putting a comma here, I'm just putting a space here, okay. So just that's why it is the good question you can ask. Okay, now if I refresh, you can see the brightness and the contrast is applied. You can also put a grayscale here, so you can actually believe on me that these properties are applying on it. These all three properties are applying on it. Now you can see the brightness, the contrast, and the grayscale is applied. You can also use the hue-rotate, and I think so hue-rotate won't work on grayscale, but let's see. If I refresh, yeah, it is not working because of grayscale, because grayscale is just taking all the colors of the image, so that's why hue will not work, but here hue is working. Okay, and now I'm going to use the invert here. So this is the way you can just put a space here and just put the next value, and it will apply all these values like this. So actually you can do many more things with it, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any question, comment it down, I will surely answer you. And feel free to ask me anything regarding to web development in any comment. I will surely help you there also. And if you are not understanding what I'm saying in this video, and if you are not familiar with CSS, so you can actually start my CSS course that I just put the link in the description of CSS playlist for dummies, so you can actually watch the videos from very beginning of CSS, and we are covering each and every concept from beginners to advanced. So that is the way that you can learn by yourself at home, and by just watching videos and just practicing. And one more thing, you cannot just learn by watching videos, you have to practice it. So, and that's all for today's video, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if you enjoyed this tutorial and if you want to support me, then you can share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and Allah Hafiz.